Hi class, welcome again to another session on rehabilitation engineering. So let us move on to the regional classification of orthosis now. So regional classification means based on the anatomical position. So orthosis based on regional classification can be orthosis for head, neck and spine, orthosis for upper extremity and orthosis for lower extremity. So for head, neck and spine you have the head cervical orthosis, then the head cervical and thoracic orthosis, then you have the sacral orthosis, lumbosacral orthosis and thoracic lumbosacral orthosis, right? So it just starts from your cervical spine and goes till your lumbar spine or sacral spine, right? You've got orthosis to support various sections depending upon where the problem is. And then you have the upper extremity orthosis, which are the shoulder and arm orthosis, elbow orthosis, wrist and hand orthosis. Then you have the lower extremity, that is the foot orthosis, ankle foot orthosis, knee ankle foot orthosis and hip knee ankle foot orthosis. So you have orthosis serving specialized functions such as the Swedish knee cage. So knee orthosis used to control minor moderate recuovectum. So recuovectum is a disorder of the knee where the knee hyperextends. So for example, if you are sitting with your legs stretched, right, your calf muscles and your thigh, your hamstrings touch the ground, whereas your knee is not touching the ground. Like try doing this, stretch your feet wide and try sitting in the floor. Your knee is actually would not touch the floor, right? That is an anatomically correct position. However, with recuovectum, what happens is the knee is actually very hyperextended, right? So knee is if someone with the recuovectum sits down, then their knees would be touching the ground first. Their hamstrings and their calf muscle wouldn't even be touching the ground. It is that hyperextended. Then you have pediatric orthosis, that is used for with children with either spinal bifida or T12 neurosegmental lesion on children with cerebral palsy. So spinal bifida is a birth disorder where the spinal cord is not properly grown. It appears like a lump on the back, right? And then T12 is 12th thoracic vertebra. If there is a lesion in the 12th thoracic vertebra on people with cerebral palsy, then their gait also gets impaired. So you have pediatric orthosis for that. So these are specifically meant for this group of patient. Then you have parapodium, which is also called a swivel prosthesis. It looks like a cross trainer. So you have abdominal support and which holds the patient in upright position, and it allows the person to walk properly, like it's like crisscross walking. Then you have reciprocating gait is the crisscross walking. Parapodium is abnormal support that would hold your posture upright. Then reciprocating gait orthosis is one that is bilateral hip prosthesis that provides contralateral hip extension with ipsilateral hip flexion. So ipsilateral is the same side, contralateral is the opposite side. I am sure all of you know by this. So if your hip is extended, right, while walking, one hip has to be extended. The hip of the leg that is planted in the ground would be extended, and the other hip, the hip that is in swing phase, would be flexed, right? So reciprocating gait orthosis would actually support this particular phenomenon, right? And then you finally have the twisters. So these are prescribed when there is a lack of internal or external rotation or torsion of the limbs, right? So you, like the name suggests, it helps in internal and external rotation of the limbs. Now orthosis for specific conditions are like orthosis for radial nerve injury. So you have 3 nerves around your wrist. So the place where you can feel your pulse is where your radial artery is. So around that area is your radial nerve. Then in the middle, exactly in the middle of your nerve is of your wrist is the medial nerve, and towards the little finger, right, towards the head of ulna is your ulnar nerve, right? So radius and ulnar are two bones in the upper arm, in the forearm, and these nerves are named after their position because they are in close proximity with these bones. So radial nerve basically controls your thumb, right? And opposition and adduction of the thumb can be controlled using radial nerve. And radial glove is used to hold the wrist extended, or wrist stroke splint is also prescribed if there is a radial nerve injury. And then you have ulnar nerve, which is basically which causes flexion of your metacarpal joints, right? That is the joints around your knuckle. So it holds the finger straight. Interphalangeal joints are external, that is your finger are straight, but your fingers are flexed at MCP. That knuckle towards the knuckles the finger is flexed, but rest of the interphalangeal joints are extended. So that is your main your ulnar nerve injury. In order to heal an injured ulnar nerve, the hand is held in that position. The splint holds the hand in that position. And then you have the medial nerve injury. So opponent's pollicis, that is the thumb, that is the opponent's splint, that is, it controls the position of the thumb, right? Opponents. And finally opposition and abduction of the thumb is held by medial nerve injury. Sorry, I said it is radial nerve, but medial nerve is actually that controls the thumb. Ulnar nerve actually controls your finger, like extends your rest of the fingers and flexes it at MCP. Okay, so then you have orthosis for joint and tendon inflammation as well. So you have static thumb spica orthosis, which holds with the proximal interphalangeal joint kept free. So proximal interphalangeal joints is the joint, interphalangeal joint is between where your fingers can fold. That joints, they are kept free. Then orthosis for burns, right? So often burns causes spasticity. So these prevents the stiff, because the tissues are dead, right? And there is quite a lot of dehydration. So burn results in spasticity. So this splint holds the part in a neutral position and prevents stiffening of the metacarpalophalangeal joints, right? So you have orthosis for rheumatoid arthritis as well. So there is static 3-point proximal interphalangeal orthosis for rheumatoid arthritis as well. So and then you have orthosis for stroke and brain injury. So large arm slings that are used to prevent subluxation of the shoulder. Subluxation means moving down of the shoulder joint, right? So that often shoulder subluxation is a very, very commonly occurring problem on the side that has suffered stroke, right? So side that is affected with stroke, and that causes because of spasticity and weakening of your rotator cuff, right? So there are orthoses that support prevention of subluxation of the shoulder and maintain proper anatomical position, right? So this is the classification of orthoses. In the next video we shall discuss on calipers.